Hazbin Hotel Season 1 came out 1 year ago, and although it was an undeniable success for Amazon Prime Video, it also received quite a lot of backlash. I loved the pilot and was excited to see the full show. I was busy with university at that time, so after I finished the show, I never really thought about it again. But now that Season 2 is right around the corner, I figured there's no better time to rewatch it with a more critical eye and finally answer the question. Is Hazbin Hotel that bad? Does it deserve the hate? Since the Hazbin Hotel fandom can be, let's just say, very passionate, I've divided this video in 2 parts. In the first, I'll only talk about the positive aspects, so that the hardcore fans who don't want to hear bad things about it won't have to watch the second part. If you're a hater, you can skip this part and move on to the criticisms. If, on the other hand, you're a balanced person like me, you'll stick around for the whole ride. Each part will be divided into subtopics. I won't review every single episode, otherwise we'd be here forever. With that said, let's dive in with the positives. I'll start by saying that even though this series has some flaws, all in all, after watching it, it left a positive feeling in me. I didn't walk away bitter or disappointed like I did with other shows. The first thing I want to highlight is the dubbing. If you've watched my other videos, you know my first language is Italian. I've seen the series in both English and Italian, and honestly, the dubbing quality is excellent in both versions. The performances are strong across the board, and even in the musical numbers, there was never a moment that made my ears bleed. A fun fact for all the Steven Universe fans who are watching this video. In the Italian dub, Angel Dust is voiced by Riccardo Suarez, the Italian voice of Steven Universe, and I assure you, hearing Steven Universe say fuck is a life-changing experience.
In questo caso, magari ti va di venire alla scuola delle gemme.
No.
Avanti, stiamo imparando e crescendo insieme.
Nessuna attività richiede più fiducia del BDSM, tesoro. Nessun legame è più forte di quello che si forma nel bondage. È risaputo?
Next we have the songs, which will be discussed in both parts of the video. I think the Hazbin Hotel soundtrack is beautiful, and each song, if taken individually, has a nice sound. In a good musical, it's also important for the songs to set the scene, enhancing the narrative moment they're presenting, and it's very important that there's a visual component that supports them. And the show does this extremely well, to the point that this is also a downside, but I'll discuss this later. The first song I want to talk about is Stayed Gone. It's fun, upbeat, and a solid introduction to the characters of Alistair and Vox. My only issue is timing. I would have saved this song for Season 2, since one of these characters isn't even explored yet. They could have just kept Alistair's part and cut Vox out for now. Performance-wise, the English version is incredible. In Italian, Oreste Baldini does a great job. Another fun fact, Alistair and Vox are dubbed by Nanni Baldini and Oreste Baldini, who are brothers. So in the Italian Stayed Gone, you're listening to 2 siblings playfully dissing each other, and I love that. The second song I enjoyed was It Starts With Sorry. Charlie's voice actress simply kills it in both languages.
It'll take time to cover my vast multitude of sins. La via del perdono è una grande sfida, ma il cuore ti guiderà.
Plus, I love how the song lightens the mood with a comedic streak, breaking the tension at just the right moment. Then we get Ready for This, which is bombastic in the best way. Though I do have a major issue with it, which I'll save for the second part of this video. I don't care much about the characters who sing Respectless, but the song itself is ridiculously catchy, and sometimes that's enough. And now, the best one in my opinion, Loser Baby. I actually prefer the Italian version here, thanks to the phenomenal performances by Riccardo Suarez and Neri Marcore.
Un tempo sai io mi sentivo come te, incompreso solo e sempre a terra. Ho aperto il cuore e così ho scoperto che siamo tutti nella stessa merda.
Faccio schifo, amore, lo grido con passione e ora so che almeno ci sei tu.
Uno schifo quanto me.
Narratively, this is the strongest song in the show. At this point, Angel Dust finally opens up to Husk, and the song becomes a beautiful gesture of support. It's not about wallowing in vices or shame, it's about admitting you suck, but deciding to work on it together. Although the focus is on Angel, the song actually says much more about Husk, and this is good writing. To offer his support to Angel, Husk goes out of his way to say something wrong about himself. Both have to do this, otherwise there's no connection. I think this is a beautiful scene because Husk isn't saying it's okay to pursue their vices, he's not apologizing for gambling or substance addiction. Instead, he's telling Angel that they aren't defined by these things, they are human beings first. But the real reason this song rocks is that Husk is incredibly more helpful and sincere here than all the Charlie bullshit I'll talk about in the second part of the video. This is probably the best and most mature scene in the entire show, and it's the only one that truly speaks of redemption to me. The other songs shown on the screen are good, but they wouldn't make my list of favorites. The characters I liked were Sir Pentious, because I found him funny, he's the most cartoonish character on the show and I love snakes. Nifty, who I personally find adorable, and Valentino, who is terrible in a good way. He's a horrible person, of course, but also a good villain. He's also essential to the plot, and he's the only member of the V's I would have introduced because he's very important to Angel Dust's character development. I would have only shown him, with a few hints about the other two. I wouldn't have introduced Fox and Velvet in this series because they serve no purpose at all, at least for now. And now, my favorite, Adam. I really liked him, and he's hands down the funniest character of the entire show, precisely because he's such an over-the-top asshole. Many people criticized this series for its excessive vulgarity, something which I'll discuss later, but there are times when this type of humor works, and for Adam it did, at least for me. There's something else I will address about him in the second part, but overall I like Adam. I liked the concept of redemption in the sense that I really liked the premise that things are more complicated than pure black and white. Humanity is more complex than that, and that's understandable. I appreciate the intent to show humanity's grey areas. As for the realization of this intent, we'll discuss that in the next part. So in conclusion, what I liked the most in Hazbin Hotel was the aesthetics, the songs, the actors' performances, and the premise. Now that I'm done with the positives, I can start with the negatives. Before addressing this show's biggest problems, let's start with some minor complaints. I'll start with what this show is most famous for, the swearing. Now, I personally don't have a problem with demons in hell cursing. After all, they're demons, so that doesn't bother me. The issue is how it's used. It doesn't matter if the character died in the 1920s or 2010s, or if they're royalty, everyone swears the same. Overuse kills impact. A well-placed curse can land hard, but if everyone swears all the time, it loses its effect. Heaven. One excuse I often hear is, it's hell, of course they swear. And as I said, I agree. But if that's how it works, then why do Adam and the angels swear too? It's just very weird to hear an angel say this.
What are we even talking about? Some crack or who fucked up already? He blew his shot like a cock's in his mouth. This discussion is senseless and petty.
A much smarter choice would have been for angels to use formal, pompous insults that show their superiority. It would have been funnier and more in character. To make a comparison, I'll describe a scene from another cartoon with a swear that made me laugh. The Amazing Digital Circus episode 5 contains this scene.
I think they're enjoying the suggestion box adventures more than the me adventures. What should I do?
You should die. You should throw a beach party.
Why do you swear now?
For starters, although the show does contain cursing, it doesn't happen nearly as much as Hazbin Hotel, so when a character swears, you feel that. Then there's the fact that Bubble never cursed before this moment, and it completely came out of nowhere. So although the word fucking isn't an original swear word, it has its effect. Kane's reaction,
Why do you swear now?
makes it all even funnier. I repeat that all the songs sound good. With that said, I have some critiques for two specific songs. Remember when I said it's very important for songs to have a visual component that supports them, and I said the show does that extremely well to the point that this is also a downside? This happens in You Didn't Know. So let's dissect this song.
But she was right, Sarah. She showed us the soul can improve.
This line doesn't make sense because we haven't established what he improved on. We still don't know why Angel is in hell. From what I've seen, it's because of his drug addiction and murder, which he hasn't improved on. Angel has always protected his friends. He didn't need to improve in that field. Following this logic, Hannibal Lecter deserves to be in heaven because he's polite and would gladly share a meal with a friend. Just because he has some human qualities, it doesn't mean his soul is worthy of heaven. In this shot, you see Angel just standing between a frightened Nifty and an angry Valentino. He's in chains, so the image communicates that despite being Valentino's slave, he defended Nifty, except we saw Valentino had no intention of hurting her. But in the heat of the moment, with Broadway talents and profound lyrics, the audience doesn't notice. It seems like Angel did something heroic, but in reality he just did something stupid, and he'll pay for it the next day. Then Charlie chimes in with,
That just because someone is dead, it doesn't mean they can't resolve to change their ways.
What does that even mean? This sentence doesn't make sense from a logical point of view, and nor from a Christian point of view. The logic is that during your life, you have to prove that you deserve heaven and, if necessary, redeem yourself. In the end, you are judged, and if you have been good, you go to heaven.
Turn the page, escape infernal blaze.
What hellfire is she talking about? Hell, in this universe, looks like the Bronx's inner city. There's no hellfire burning there. From what I've seen, the overlords live in luxury, and the sinners party in sex clubs, drinking alcohol and taking drugs like there's no tomorrow. Lute attacks Angel, and the image shows Angel in episode 4, when he was beaten by Valentino because of Charlie, so it's not a real-time image. It's a subtle manipulation to influence the audience, with Charlie bravely standing up to her friend and defending him, when she was not only the one who caused this in the first place, but also the one who left him in Valentino's clutches. But this scene is very quick, so what you get is that Adam and Lute are evil and want Angel to be beaten by Valentino, while Charlie wants to prevent all this. I remind you that this numbskull could pay Valentino to let Angel stay at the hotel, just like she did with Cherrybomb in the same episode, but she doesn't. Adam and Lute appear as evil in this scene, but they're simply pointing out that he's still addicted, which is true.
Are you really telling me you've never had a drink with friends at the end of a hard day?
True, but the whole point is that Angel should abstain from vices. Emily finds out about the extermination and immediately sides with Charlie.
Would die too naive to expect you to heed the morals you're purveying.
Once again, I have no idea what she's talking about. What principles is she referring to?
If hell is forever, then heaven must be alive.
What? How exactly do these things relate to one another? And finally, the icing on the cake.
How can I bring joy when I now know we are bringing misery to thousands of innocent people? Innocent people. 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 Innocent people.
Sarah then says,
If you start to question, you could end up like Lucifer, fallen.
except that we had established in the prologue that Lucifer fell because he gave free will to humanity. So yeah, this song is a mess, but since the visual component is very well done, the audience doesn't immediately realize how stupid this whole situation is. Let's discuss the next song, Poison. This song describes a very sensitive topic. It's about an addiction to substances and lifestyles that you know are toxic, but you can't do without. It describes Angel's desire to escape this terrible situation, but he still refuses to leave. From a purely lyrical point of view, this is probably Hazbin Hotel's best song, and I think it portrays this inner turmoil quite well. But when I first watched this video clip, I admit it made me feel deeply uncomfortable. Of course, this is a topic that is meant to be uncomfortable, but something about the images shown on the screen felt a bit fetishizing to me. Angel just is trying to frame the abuse he's receiving as glamorous or fun because it helps him cope, but I still felt it was in poor taste to portray his sexual exploitation with an upbeat pop song. I always give others the benefit of the doubt, so I assumed that Vivzi had the best intentions to portray the subject maturely. Then I found out about this song's backstory. Out of all the controversies that spawned from Hazbin Hotel, this is probably the most infamous. I'm not someone who usually documents herself on a series background or its creators, I simply watch shows. But in this specific case, knowing that one of the people who worked on the poison sequence is a rape fetishist deeply disturbed me. Knowing that someone who sees one of the absolute worst things a person can go through as his fetish was working on a scene that is supposed to represent how disgusting it is simply atrocious. Believe me when I say I'm struggling to find words to express how much this upsets me. Vivzi handled the situation terribly, lying and defending this person. She also made this joke while promoting the song, which was really gross. I'm sure she genuinely wanted to portray the topic respectfully, because episode 4 truly shows how much of a monster Valentino is, and his relationship with Angel is portrayed as abusive, but she handled the poison thing terribly. As for the actual depiction of the subject within the show, I read comments of people who have been victims of sexual assault liking the episode, and victims who hate it. I'm not a victim of sexual assault, and I don't want to invalidate anything anyone has to say on the episode's treatment of the subject. Some found it validating, while others felt hurt by it. Both reactions are valid, and I respect that. I'm just saying that personally, I didn't like it, and I think they could have handled this a lot better. And while we're on the topic, I really don't understand what was going on in Vivzi's mind when she made that scene with Sir Panches. I don't think anything actually happened because he comes back a few seconds later with his clothes still on, but I still think this is a joke made in poor taste. Rape is not funny. You can't have a show where you rightfully portray how traumatizing rape is only to treat it as a joke with a different character. We literally see him being forcibly dragged into the room by a crowd of demons as he resists, showing that he does not want this, and we're supposed to laugh. The way this show treats sexual abuse feels inconsistent, and to me, very crude. Moving on, we have something almost nobody talks about, but it's actually where the series' biggest inconsistency starts. The show opens with Charlie narrating that evil existed before humanity, angels created Adam and Lilith, Lilith rebelled, etc. On my second watch, I realized there's a plot hole in this prologue. Lilith rebels against Adam before Lucifer grants them free will. This makes everything confusing because according to the prologue, Lucifer got banished from heaven for giving man free will, something that he already had. I was really curious to see how the show would have handled the redemption of a sinner, but unfortunately, Vivzi doesn't care a whit about redemption, which leads to the first big problem, betrayal of the premise. This isn't the first time Vivzi has written a story with a cool premise that she does not follow. Helva Boss is about imps killing people from clients who went to hell. You would expect the main group to go to Earth and do their assassination every few episodes, with personal issues sprinkled in. But instead, there is a forbidden love romance involving an overgrown pigeon that takes up space, ruining the original premise. Hazbin Hotel should be about redeeming sinners. You would expect the main group to try helping a sinner become a better person, with personal issues sprinkled within. Instead, it's a story of hell fighting against heaven with a hotel in the background. Having a good protagonist is fundamental to having a good story. Charlie is an awfully written character, which is a shame because I like her design and voice actress. I'll start by saying this. Why is Charlie like this? I mean, why does she think souls can be redeemed? Who taught these values to her? Lucifer might have taught her decency, but Lilith literally can't believe in redemption because she's the first sinner. So who shaped Charlie's worldview? Nothing in her background explains why she clings to this idea. Her whole life, she's only seen depraved people, including her closest friends. Yes, Angel does have some positive traits, but he's still a murderer. Does she even have any proof that people can be redeemed? So right from the start, I couldn't sympathize with this character because I couldn't find her believable. And it also didn't help that this series kept showing me the opposite of what she thinks. The series showed me rapists, sexual predators, psychopaths, serial killers, and cannibals. But Charlie thinks...
Everyone can be redeemed.
Do you guys remember the Charlie from the pilot?
But the whole point of this is to give people a chance.
Pilot Charlie wasn't an idiot. She knew some demons were beyond saving. She just wanted to offer the possibility of redemption to those who recognized their problems and actively wanted to get better.
Sinners made mistakes, sure, but everyone makes mistakes.
They made mistakes, but they had a lifetime to make up for them. The problem with this cartoon is that it's not true that the angels are denying sinners their second chance at salvation. They had a whole lifetime to change and make up for their mistakes, but they always chose to act the same way, so they were punished with eternal damnation. It's obvious that when faced with punishment, everyone would say they wouldn't have done it, because they thought they could do whatever they wanted without being punished. But now that they've seen the punishment, they don't want it. Charlie's argument doesn't hold up because she talks as if people were born in hell, but that's not the case. This reasoning only works if applied to someone like Angel Dust, whom you like. But what do you say we do it with someone like Valentino or Griffith? Well, Valentino made mistakes, but we all make mistakes. Sure, Griffith made some mistakes, but we all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect, guys. She clearly says she thinks everyone is redeemable, and it's not a solid argument. Throughout the series, no one puts Charlie in her place, and she never understands that what she is saying is nonsense. The only moment of crisis she has is at the beginning of episode 7, but it's not because she's questioning her values. She's crying because she can't carry out her plan. Then I don't understand why she would need the approval of the angels for the Hazbin Hotel. If a soul redeems itself thanks to the Hazbin Hotel, it goes to heaven. There's no need for the approval of the angels. The public, unless they share Vivzi's mindset, has no way of believing that demons can be redeemed. From my perspective, for example, this possibility doesn't exist, and if it does, it's bullshit. These people are here because they've hurt other people their entire lives, and now they're theoretically serving the punishments of hell. Breaking out of this system essentially means finding a loophole and avoiding punishment. Thinking about it, one can find a possible explanation for a demon's redemption, but it must be analyzed case by case. Why is Angel in hell? Let's start with establishing the reason, and then we can work on their sins, and see if by working on them we can get above them. Instead of doing this, Vivzi just hand waves it, and if you don't buy into her logic, you're labeled as close-minded. Personally, I need to understand if something like this is possible because my rational mind won't believe in something just because someone charismatic tells me so. This is why I can enjoy the song Ready for This only if I imagine someone who isn't Charlie singing it. Rosie and Alastor try to sell me the idea that she's a leader worthy of being followed, but I just don't see it. So what is her plan for redeeming sinners?
Oh. No!
Can I also say that it's incredibly insensitive for her to put on a skit where Pensius has to play the part of the poor, defenseless child lured by the drug dealer, and she has Angel Dust play the part of the drug dealer, the one with an addiction to drugs? Is that supposed to be funny? I'm sure it wasn't her intention, but Vivzi makes Charlie look insensitive. The result is a psychopathic character, although inadvertently. Charlie and the skit she put on makes me particularly angry because she made them do it without researching the personal lives and problems of both Angel and Pensius. If she had done so, she would have known Pensius doesn't have a drug problem, and for Angel Dust, drugs are an escape from a terrible reality. Essentially, she has completely mocked him, and her naivety turns into cruelty. Charlie went to the studio intending to put Valentino in his place, yet she ended up being passive-aggressive towards Angel.
I am the princess of hell, Angel, and I go where I please!
Fuck you.
She's disgusted by Valentino, but ultimately prefers to be under him even though she could kill him with a fart. Then Charlie agrees to have an adult movie filmed in her presence, involving several demons who are supposed to sodomize Angel. So earlier in this episode, she was disgusted by Angel on TV, and now she agrees to watch him live as he gets railed. If she's disgusted by porn, she could have used that as an excuse. Don't you guys see how sick this situation is? Then the filming starts, and she, who has the grace of a mammoth in a glass factory, causes a fire. Valentino takes it out on Angel Dust, and Charlie does nothing. He comes out of the room with a black eye, and then, when it finally seems she's about to do something, Angel does what any victim would do. Indulge his tormentor. She immediately stops and leaves. I repeat, she sees him with a black eye while Valentino is behind him, and she runs away because she's offended. That is, she truly thinks that Angel Dust is exercising his own will in this situation. She truly believes this is Angel's decision, and she's offended. Later, when she apologizes to him, it's not because she caused him to get punched in the face and have a more aggressive day than usual. She does it because she saw him pissed off and cares more about being forgiven than about making sure he's okay. I can't stand this character. I read a lot about this character online, and most fans are convinced that Charlie's flaws are intentional and that they are things she needs to improve on. Her naivety, her childishness, and her innate goodness. But that's not true. Charlie is a Mary Sue, but she's sold as a good character through cheap ploys, such as having the characters around her point out these flaws vocally, like Alastair does during the commercial in episode 1. One final note about her relationship with Vaggie. Husk said Vaggie, Charlie's girlfriend, hates herself. Charlie doesn't react to this. She doesn't say something like, "Hey babe, is that true? You hate yourself?" She remains silent. Charlie is a terrible protagonist, written crudely and superficially, and she's not a character worthy of conveying the values she's supposed to convey. All this, summed with the betrayal of the premise, fatally wounded the show for me. When I read other people's opinions on this character, I admit I was surprised. Apparently, he's supposed to be a misogynist, but personally, I didn't have that feeling at all. Is he rude and unpleasant to be around? Absolutely. But sexist? Now I'll explain why I personally disagree. Number 1. His relationship with Lilith. I kind of agree with this one. They were created equal and he imposed himself on her. However, instead of going after her, he waits for the angels to make him another wife. But of course that doesn't necessarily mean he isn't sexist. Not all sexists are also violent people. Number 2. This line of dialogue.
You know, when you take her out for the 5th time and she still expects you to pay the check, but you're like, "Hey, I thought you wanted equality!"
And to be honest, I agree with him. If you are on your 5th date with a man and still expect him to pay your food, you're the problem.
I was playing this gig, and for some fucking reason, this virtue chick was digging on the drummer, and it's like, do you know who I am? I'm fucking Adam. I'm the original dick. All dicks descend from me. You think you want drummer dick? No way. I'm the dick fucking master.
Apparently, people thought that since he was raising his voice, he forced himself on the girl he was talking to. Except Charlie uses the same tone when talking to Alastair in episode 7.
3 years! 3 years I've been sharing my life with her, and I tell her everything. My hopes, my dreams, my insecurities.
I don't know about you, but when I vent to a friend about a problem, I tend to use an excited tone, which doesn't mean I want to hurt them. Adam uses the word cunt and bitch. He uses these words toward anyone he can't stand, both female and male. And finally, my favorite. You can tell he's sexist because he eats ribs, and since women were taken from his rib, he's a womanizer. This is one of the stupidest things I've ever read in my life. Just because he likes women doesn't make him a misogynist. During the show, he didn't sleep with any woman. He doesn't care if Charlie and Vaggie are together, so he's not homophobic. He doesn't care if Sarah and Emily, 2 women, are the ones giving him orders. He even apologizes when he realizes he's gone too far. A misogynist doesn't give a bro fist to his female friends, because he doesn't see them as equals. Can you imagine Gaston giving a bro fist to one of them? I sure can't. If this is supposed to be the representation of a sexist man in 2024, the situation is critical. I don't know about you, but for me, this is the one who deserves to be punched all day, while this guy is simply a vulgar idiot. So in conclusion, does Hazbin Hotel deserve the hate? My final answer is, it depends. If I only think about the show itself, it has many flaws in its writing, the betrayal of the premise and a terrible protagonist being the worst ones. But it has a solid voice cast and it entertained me. With that said, I completely understand why Poison caused such a wave of hate and why some people refuse to support the show and its creator because of it. So if I consider only the show itself, it's deeply flawed, but it doesn't deserve the hate. But if I take into account Poison, I understand where the hate is coming from. Now I want to break a small lance for Hazbin Hotel. There are many essays dedicated to this show. I've seen most of them, and some have valid criticisms I agree with. However, without telling names, I've noticed there are some channels that base their entire existence on making videos that hate Hazbin Hotel and Hell of a Boss or Vivzipop. And I find that weird. It's one thing to just make a video on something explaining why you don't like it. After all, I'm doing the same thing right now. But dedicating your whole channel to that, I personally don't get it. At this point, it feels less like criticism and more like farming clicks by repeating the same things over and over. Hazbin Hotel isn't the worst thing out there, and it's not the masterpiece some fans want it to be. It's a flawed, flashy musical with catchy songs and clumsy writing. I've been very critical, but if Season 2 manages to fix even half of these problems, I'll happily give it credit, and if it doesn't, I'll drop it just like I did with Hell of a Boss. If you watched the entire video, thank you. If you have opinions that are completely different from mine, feel free to write them below, and I'll gladly read them. I won't be offended. At most, we can calmly discuss it. I don't claim to be right, of course, but I will obviously defend my positions, because if I chose to talk about these things in a public video, it means I'm convinced of what I'm saying. One special thank you to my friend Francesco, who made the Hell of a Boss and Hazbin Hotel videos thumbnails. He commissioned this video, asking for my opinion on the show, so this one's for you, Franchi. As always, thanks for watching and have a great day.